Hello, and welcome to Most Relaxing Facts. Tonight, we're descending beneath the surface of the ocean. We're drifting down through warm, clear water into a world of color and silence. A place where gardens grow not from soil, but from stone. Where tiny architects build cities over centuries. Where life blooms in shapes and shades that seem impossible. Coral reefs are among the oldest and most beautiful structures on Earth. They are home to millions of creatures. They protect coastlines. They breathe with the tides. And they do all of this so quietly, so patiently, building themselves one microscopic layer at a time, year after year, century after century. Over the next few hours, I'll share with you 100 gentle facts about these underwater wonders. How coral polyps create limestone castles. How reefs sing with the sound of snapping shrimp. How fish and coral communicate in ways science is only beginning to understand. Let these peaceful truths about life beneath the waves carry you softly into the deepest, most restful sleep. If you find tranquility in these journeys through the natural world, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Most Relaxing Facts. Your support helps us explore more of Earth's quiet marvels together. But first, let's prepare to submerge into the calm. Take a slow, deep breath in. Hold it gently, as if you're floating just below the surface, and release it completely, letting yourself sink deeper into relaxation. Feel the water around you. Feel yourself becoming weightless, suspended, ready to drift through coral forests where time moves with the rhythm of the tide. There's no need to swim, no need to search. Just listen and let the gentle whispers of the reef guide you towards sleep. The water is warm. The current is soft. Our journey into the underwater garden begins now. Close your eyes and let me take you beneath the surface, into the warm, clear waters where sunlight dances through liquid blue, where ancient architects have been building for millions of years, where entire cities of life thrive in silent harmony. Tonight, here on Most Relaxing Facts, we're descending into the peaceful realm of coral reefs, the living structures that shelter more life than almost anywhere else on Earth. The underwater rainforests where every creature has a role, where symbiosis and cooperation create beauty beyond imagination. This is the story of the architects of calm, the tiny polyps that build limestone fortresses, the algae that paint them in brilliant colors, the fish that clean and garden, the creatures that glow and sway and drift through currents that have flowed for millennia. These are the reefs that protect coastlines from waves, that produce the very smell of the ocean, that create the white sand beaches we walk on, that house 25% of all marine life in less than 1% of the ocean floor. Imagine yourself floating weightless above a coral garden, suspended in the gentle current, watching the slow, graceful dance of sea fans swaying, the elegant branches of staghorn coral reaching upward, the maze-like patterns of brain coral stretching across the seafloor. Imagine the quiet, crackling sounds of thousands of tiny shrimp, the peaceful cleaning stations where even sharks wait patiently for service, the midnight spawning events that look like underwater snowstorms rising toward the moon. Tonight we'll discover creatures so small they were only found by accident, partnerships so ancient they predate the dinosaurs, structures so massive they're visible from space, colors so vivid they seem impossible, survival strategies so clever they inspire wonder. we'll learn why corals glow under UV light, how parrotfish create beaches, why giant clams have eyes, where the oldest living things on Earth grow in total darkness. So settle into the gentle rhythm of the ocean. Let the waves rock you softly. Feel yourself sinking into the warm embrace of tropical waters and drift with me into the living reef, into the architects of calm, into the peaceful underwater cities where life has thrived for 500 million years. Corals are actually animals, not plants, a fact that surprises many people who see their fixed positions, their branching forms, their colorful appearance, and assume they must be underwater flora. But corals belong to the phylum Cnidaria, the same ancient group that includes jellyfish and sea anemones, creatures with stinging cells, with simple but effective body plans, with strategies for survival that have persisted for hundreds of millions of years. This animal nature means corals eat. They breathe, they reproduce, they respond to their environment in ways that plants do not. They're hunters, predators in miniature, capturing prey with tentacles, digesting food in simple stomach cavities, growing and building through animal metabolism rather than photosynthesis alone. Though, as we'll discover, photosynthesis plays a crucial role in their lives through their partnerships with algae. Understanding that corals are animals changes how we see them, shifts our perception from passive underwater plants to active creatures building, hunting, growing, competing, cooperating, living out complex lives on the seafloor. They're not decorations, but beings, not scenery, but actors in the ocean's grand drama, architects constructing cities that house millions of other creatures. Each individual coral is called a polyp, a tiny, soft-bodied organism that's often smaller than a pencil eraser, sometimes microscopic, always fragile, always vulnerable without protection. The polyp has a simple body plan, a hollow tube with a mouth at one end surrounded by tentacles, a stomach cavity where digestion occurs, a base that attaches to hard surfaces, secreting the limestone skeleton that will protect it and support the colony. These polyps live in communities of thousands or even millions, each one a clone of the others, all genetically identical, all working together to build the reef structure, to capture food, to defend territory, to reproduce and spread. The individual polyp is small and weak, but the colony is strong, the community is resilient, the collective structure is massive and enduring. The polyps are connected to each other through thin layers of living tissue, sharing nutrients, coordinating responses, functioning as single superorganism rather than isolated individuals. When one polyp captures food, the nutrients can spread throughout the colony. When one polyp detects danger, the signal can trigger defensive responses across the entire structure. The colony thinks and acts as one, despite being composed of thousands of individuals. This colonial living represents elegant solution to survival challenges. Individual polyps are too small to build substantial protective structures, too weak to defend large territories, too vulnerable to survive alone in the competitive reef environment. But together, building communal skeleton, sharing resources, coordinating activities, they create structures that last for centuries, that dominate the seafloor, that provide foundation for entire ecosystems. The hard surface of a reef, the limestone that cuts your feet if you step on it, that provides structure for the entire ecosystem, that persists for thousands of years after the polyps that built it have died is actually a skeleton secreted by the living polyps to protect their soft, vulnerable bodies from predators, from crushing waves, from the countless threats that would destroy unprotected soft tissue. The polyps extract calcium and carbonate ions from seawater, combining them into calcium carbonate, the same mineral that forms limestone, that builds seashells, that creates stalactites in caves. They deposit this mineral beneath their bodies, building cup-shaped structures called corallites that they sit in, protected on all sides except the top where their tentacles extend to catch food and their mouths open to feed. As the colony grows, as new polyps are added through budding or division, the skeleton grows too, each polyp adding its own corallite, the structure expanding outward and upward, layer upon layer of limestone accumulating, creating the solid foundation that will support not just the coral colony, but the entire reef community, the fish, the invertebrates, the algae, the countless organisms that call the reef home. This skeleton persists after the polyps die, becoming substrate for new coral growth, for algae colonization, for the attachment of sponges and sea fans and countless other organisms. The reef is built from accumulated skeletons of billions of polyps that have lived and died over thousands or even millions of years, each generation building on the remains of previous generations, creating structures of such scale and permanence that they shape coastlines, that create islands, that alter ocean currents and wave patterns. Reefs grow at an incredibly slow, meditative pace that requires patience to even comprehend, with some species adding only 1 centimeter of height per year, less than ½ an inch annually, a growth rate so gradual that you could watch for your entire lifetime and barely notice the change. Yet over centuries and millennia, this patient accumulation creates structures hundreds of feet tall, miles long, massive enough to be visible from space. This slow growth reflects the careful, energy-intensive process of extracting minerals from seawater, of building limestone skeleton molecule by molecule, of adding layer upon layer of calcium carbonate in the precise structures that will support the colony. There's no rushing this process, no way to accelerate it significantly without compromising structural integrity, without creating weak skeleton that would crumble under wave action or break under stress. The slowness is itself beautiful, a reminder that the most enduring structures, the most impressive achievements often come through patient accumulation rather than rapid construction, through consistent small additions rather than dramatic sudden growth. The reef teaches patience, teaches trust in gradual processes, teaches that time itself can be architect when given the raw materials and the patient builders. This patient growth rate also means that damaged reefs recover very slowly, that a coral head destroyed by anchor or dynamite or careless diver represents decades or even centuries of growth lost, that restoration efforts require similarly patient timeframes, that protection is far easier and more effective than repair. The slowness that creates beauty also creates vulnerability. These ancient structures can be destroyed in moments but take lifetimes to rebuild. The Great Barrier Reef stretches over 1,400 miles along Australia's northeastern coast, covering an area larger than Italy, containing over 2,900 individual reefs and 900 islands built by countless billions of tiny polyps over millions of years, creating a structure so massive that it is the only living thing visible from the silent expanse of outer space, from the International Space Station orbiting hundreds of miles above Earth's surface. From space, the reef appears as a pale blue ribbon against the darker ocean, a visible testament to the power of tiny creatures working together over immense timeframes of patient accumulation, creating scale beyond human comprehension, of life itself literally changing the face of the planet, making marks visible from the void of space, creating structures that rival human cities in extent and far exceed them in age. This visibility from space speaks to the reef's scale, but also to its importance. It's not just massive, but significant, not just large, but vital, supporting such diversity and abundance of life that it literally changes the ocean's color, that creates enough physical structure to alter light reflection patterns visible from orbit, that represents one of Earth's great biological treasures, a concentration of life and beauty that our planet has spent millions of years creating. The astronauts looking down see not just reef, but achievement of life itself, the power of small creatures acting consistently over deep time to transform their environment, to build structures of permanence and beauty, to create habitats that support countless other species, to make their mark on the planet in ways visible even from the edge of space. Coral polyps are mostly transparent. Their bodies are essentially clear tissue, colorless and see-through like jellyfish, revealing the limestone skeleton beneath. The vibrant colors we associate with healthy reefs, the brilliant blues and greens, the stunning purples and pinks, the electric yellows and oranges, don't come from the coral tissue itself, but from the tiny algae living inside the polyp cells. Billions of microscopic organisms called zooxanthellae that have taken up residence in coral tissue, creating one of nature's most successful and important partnerships. These single-celled algae are what give corals their characteristic colors, with different species and types of zooxanthellae producing different pigments, creating the rainbow of colors that make coral reefs so visually spectacular, so photogenic, so beloved by divers and snorkelers who explore these underwater gardens. The coral provides structure and protection. The algae provide color and, more importantly, food through photosynthesis. Without these algae, corals would be ghostly, transparent creatures, colorless colonies sitting on white limestone skeletons, still building reefs, but far less vibrant, far less visually impressive, still important ecologically, but lacking the vivid beauty that makes healthy reefs so striking, so memorable, so worth protecting, not just for ecological reasons, but for pure aesthetic value that enriches human experience and inspires conservation. The transparency of the coral tissue itself allows sunlight to penetrate to the zooxanthellae living within the cells, enables photosynthesis to occur inside the animal's body, creates the conditions for this remarkable partnership where plant and animal live in such intimate association that they function almost as single organism, neither able to thrive without the other, both benefiting from collaboration that has persisted for millions of years. This partnership is called symbiosis, specifically mutualistic symbiosis, where both partners benefit from the relationship, where the algae provide food through photosynthesis and the coral provides a safe, stable home with access to sunlight, nutrients, and protection from herbivores that would eat the algae if they were free-floating. This is one of nature's most successful partnerships, enabling corals to thrive in nutrient-poor tropical waters, where they otherwise couldn't obtain enough food to support their growth and reproduction. The algae photosynthesize using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, producing sugars and oxygen, the same process that occurs in leaves and grass and all photosynthetic organisms. But here, the products of photosynthesis don't support the plant itself, but are shared with the coral host, with up to 90% of the sugars produced by zooxanthellae transferred to coral tissue, providing energy that fuels coral growth, skeleton building, reproduction, all the processes that keep the colony thriving. In return, the coral provides nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon dioxide from its own metabolism that the algae need for photosynthesis and growth, creating closed loop where waste from one partner becomes resource for the other, where cooperation creates efficiency impossible through independent living, where the whole truly becomes greater than the sum of parts. This symbiosis explains why coral reefs thrive in clear, nutrient-poor tropical waters. The water seems almost sterile, lacking the nutrients that support rich ocean life in colder waters, yet the reefs explode with diversity and abundance. The secret is internal food production through the zooxanthellae, enabling corals to effectively farm their own food inside their bodies, to create productivity in environments that couldn't otherwise support such rich ecosystems. At night, the reef transforms. Many coral polyps extend their tiny, feathery tentacles to catch microscopic plankton drifting in the current, the zooplankton and phytoplankton that form the ocean's floating meadows, the tiny creatures and plants that drift with currents, that provide food for countless filter feeders and predators that form the base of ocean food webs. The tentacles are equipped with specialized stinging cells called nematocysts, microscopic harpoons that fire when triggered by chemical or physical contact, injecting toxins that paralyze prey, enabling the polyp to capture and consume creatures that might otherwise or swim or drift away. These stinging cells are the coral's weapons, the tools that make the sessile polyp an effective predator despite never moving from its fixed position. The nighttime feeding is efficient, elegant in its simplicity. The polyp simply extends its tentacles into the current, waits for plankton to drift by, captures what contacts the tentacles, draws the prey to its mouth, consumes and digests it, supplements the food provided by internal algae with protein and nutrients that photosynthesis alone can't provide, maintaining balanced diet that supports health and growth. Watching a reef at night, illuminated by dive lights, reveals this hidden world of extended tentacles, of polyps that were invisible during the day now fully emerged and actively feeding, of the reef transformed from the colorful, algae-dominated landscape of daylight into a textured, tentacle-covered hunting ground where billions of tiny predators simultaneously harvest the ocean's drifting bounty. Corals have evolved unique internal clock that allows an entire reef to spawn at the exact same moment, releasing eggs and sperm in massive synchronized event that occurs once a year, typically a few nights after the full moon in spring or summer, triggered by combination of water temperature, moon phase, day length, and other environmental cues. that ensure all the colonies are ready simultaneously. This synchronization is crucial because corals don't move. The polyps are fixed in place, unable to seek out mates, unable to ensure their reproductive cells find partners. By releasing everything at once, by timing reproduction so that billions of eggs and sperm enter the water during the same narrow window, corals maximize the chance that fertilization will occur, that the eggs released by one colony will encounter sperm from other colonies, that genetic mixing will happen despite sessile lifestyle that seems to preclude finding mates. The environmental triggers ensure the timing is optimal: warm enough water for larval development, appropriate moon phase, creating tides and light levels that enhance larval survival, coordinated across the reef so that even species that might normally spawn at different times all release together, creating the extraordinary spectacle of mass spawning that divers and researchers anticipate eagerly each year. The internal clock mechanism isn't fully understood but involves sophisticated biological timing systems, environmental sensing that detects the complex combination of signals, coordination across the colony, so all polyps release simultaneously, demonstrating that these simple animals possess remarkable abilities to sense and respond to their environment in highly coordinated ways. This mass spawning event looks like an underwater snowstorm in reverse. Billions upon billions of tiny pink and orange and white bundles rising slowly toward the surface, each bundle containing eggs and sperm released by individual polyps. The water becoming thick with reproductive material, visibility dropping as the ocean fills with this biological blizzard, creating scenes of such surreal beauty that divers describe it as one of nature's most spectacular events. The bundles float upward toward the surface, carried by their buoyancy, drifting with currents that will disperse them across the ocean, allowing genetic mixing between distant colonies, enabling larvae to colonize new areas, spreading the coral's genes far from the parent colony in ways that sessile lifestyle would otherwise prevent. The surface becomes covered with a slick of reproductive material, the ocean literally thick with potential new life. At the surface, the bundles break apart. Eggs and sperm separate and mix. Fertilization occurs in the open water, creating larvae that will drift with currents for days or weeks before settling on suitable substrate to begin growing into new colonies, to start the patient process of building new reef structure, to continue the lineage that stretches back millions of years through countless generations of patient building and reproduction. The synchronized timing means predators can't possibly eat everything. There's simply too much reproductive material released at once for fish and filter feeders to consume it all, ensuring that some percentage survives to create next generation. Overwhelming predation through sheer abundance, safety in numbers applied to reproduction, another elegant solution to challenges of sessile life in the ocean. Soft corals do not have hard limestone skeleton like their reef-building cousins. Instead, they have flexible internal structures made of tiny calcium carbonate pieces called sclerites embedded in soft tissue, creating support while maintaining flexibility, allowing them to sway gently with the ocean's pulse like underwater willow trees, moving gracefully with currents, bending rather than breaking in surge and wave action. These soft corals, sea fans, sea whips, sea feathers add movement and grace to the reef landscape, providing contrast to the rigid structure of hard corals, creating habitat through their flexible forms, offering different kinds of shelter and attachment surfaces that support species requiring different substrate types, adding to the reef's structural diversity and therefore its biodiversity. The swaying motion is mesmerizing, hypnotic in its gentle back and forth rhythm, the entire forest of soft coral moving in unison with the surge, bending with the current, creating living motion in underwater landscape that otherwise appears static, reminding observers that the reef is not fixed and rigid, but dynamic and flowing, constantly moving with the ocean's breath. Soft corals often grow where hard corals cannot, on vertical walls, on rocky overhangs, in areas where water movement is too strong or too variable for rigid structures to survive intact, expanding the reef's three-dimensional complexity, covering surfaces that would otherwise be bare rock, adding layers of life and habitat that increase the total carrying capacity of the reef ecosystem. The colors of soft corals are often even more vivid than hard corals. Bright reds and yellows, deep purples and oranges, colors coming from pigments in the coral tissue itself rather than from zooxanthellae, creating visual spectacle that draws divers and photographers, that makes certain reefs famous for their soft coral gardens, that demonstrates nature's palette in its full spectrum of possibility. Reefs act as natural breakwaters, their solid structures silently absorbing up to 97% of the energy from crashing waves before they reach the shore, protecting coastlines from erosion, preventing storm damage to human communities, providing ecosystem service worth billions of dollars in storm protection, coastal stabilization, and prevention of beach loss and property damage. The complex three-dimensional structure of the reef, the branches and valleys, the overhangs and crevices, the rough textured surface, dissipates wave energy through friction, through deflection, through breaking up wave patterns, transforming powerful swells into gentle waves that reach shore with fraction of their original force, making beaches safe for swimming and communities safe from storm surge. This protective function becomes tragically obvious when reefs are damaged or destroyed. Coastlines that were stable for centuries suddenly experience rapid erosion. Beaches wash away. Storm damage increases dramatically. Communities that were protected discover their vulnerability when the natural breakwater is compromised, learning too late the value of the reef they took for granted or actively damaged. The protection is continuous, operating during every wave event, during every storm, during every high tide, never resting, never requiring maintenance or repair beyond natural growth processes, providing service worth far more than it would cost to build artificial breakwaters with equivalent protective effect, demonstrating that nature's infrastructure often outperforms and costs less than human-built alternatives. Climate change threatens this protective function as warming and acidification stress corals, as bleaching and disease reduce coral cover, as storms become more intense and frequent, potentially creating positive feedback where reef damage reduces protection, which increases coastal damage, which reduces human capacity to protect remaining reefs, spiraling toward increased vulnerability for both ecosystems and human communities that depend on reef protection. Over 25% of all marine life depends on coral reefs for survival, for food, for shelter, for breeding grounds, for nursery habitat, where juveniles grow protected from open ocean predators, even though reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, creating concentration of biodiversity rivaling tropical rainforests, earning reefs the nickname rainforests of the sea for their extraordinary species, richness, and ecological complexity. This disproportion, covering less than 1% but supporting 25%, demonstrates reefs' extraordinary productivity and their importance far beyond their limited geographic extent. They punch vastly above their weight in terms of ecological value, supporting ocean biodiversity disproportionate to their area, providing services that benefit the entire ocean ecosystem and the human communities that depend on marine resources. The reef provides everything mobile species need: structure for shelter and attachment, food in the form of coral tissue, zooxanthellae, plankton concentrated by reef structure, and smaller fish and invertebrates, breeding sites where eggs can be safely attached to substrate, nursery habitat where juveniles have protection and food during vulnerable early life stages, navigation landmarks helping fish find their way across featureless ocean expanses. Losing reefs means losing not just the corals but the 25% of marine life that depends on them, cascading through food webs, affecting fisheries, impacting coastal communities, reducing ocean health and productivity, creating ecological catastrophe whose effects would ripple through marine ecosystems globally and impact human food security and economic well-being for billions of people. The concentration of life on reefs also makes them valuable for research, for bioprospecting, for discovering new species and new chemicals with potential medical or industrial applications, for understanding ecology and evolution, for inspiring biomimicry and technological innovation, for connecting humans to the ocean through accessible, spectacular diving and snorkeling experiences that foster conservation ethic. Corals have been building their silent empires for over 500 million years, since the Cambrian period, long before the first plants colonized land, long before dinosaurs, long before mammals. Through mass extinctions and climate changes and continental drift, adapting, persisting, continuing to build reefs, generation after generation through deep time, that's hard for human minds to fully comprehend. This extraordinary persistence makes corals among Earth's most successful animals, their basic body plan and colonial strategy proving so effective that it has survived virtually unchanged through 500 million years of Earth history, through conditions ranging from ice ages to hothouse climates, through ocean chemistry changes and sea level fluctuations and asteroid impacts that destroyed countless other lineages. The fossil record preserves ancient reefs, limestone structures that once were living coral colonies, now lithified into rock, providing evidence of reef ecosystems stretching back through geological time, showing that reefs have repeatedly recovered from mass extinctions, that they've adapted to changing conditions while maintaining fundamental structure and function, that they represent enduring solution to ecological challenges. This long history offers both hope and warning. Hope that reefs can recover from current stresses if we reduce the pressures we're imposing, that they have intrinsic resilience proven through millions of years, that natural selection has equipped them with adaptability that might enable survival of current crisis. warning that current rate of change may exceed reefs' ability to adapt, that human impacts are occurring faster than reefs can respond, that even extraordinarily successful organisms can be destroyed if pushed too far too fast. The 500 million years of reef building connect us to deep time, remind us that the reefs we see today represent the latest chapter in an ancient story, that every coral colony is part of lineage stretching back through countless generations to ancestors in seas so ancient they're barely imaginable, that we're privileged to experience these living fossils that have witnessed Earth's entire history of complex life. Some deep-sea corals live in total darkness, in cold water at depths where sunlight never penetrates, where temperatures hover just above freezing, where the ocean's pressure would crush human body instantly, surviving without zooxanthellae, without photosynthesis, feeding entirely on the sparse rain of organic material that drifts down from surface waters, growing even more slowly than their shallow water relatives, and living to extraordinary ages. Some specimens have been dated at over 4,000 years old, making them among the oldest living organisms on Earth, older than the pyramids, older than written language, older than human civilization, silent witnesses to millennia of human history occurring in the sunlit world far above. These ancient deep-sea corals grow so slowly that aging them requires radiocarbon dating, counting growth rings visible only under microscope, analyzing isotope ratios that reveal their age in centuries rather than years. A coral colony the size of a small tree might be 2,000 or 3,000 years old, having started growing when Rome was at its height, having survived through rise and fall of empires, through climate changes and ocean current shifts, through all of recorded human history and far beyond. The cold, dark, high-pressure environment of the deep sea slows metabolism, extends lifespan, makes growth extraordinarily patient process measured in millimeters per decade rather than centimeters per year. These corals epitomize patience, endurance, persistence, continuing to live and grow through millennia in conditions that seem impossibly harsh, creating structure and habitat in the deep ocean where diversity would otherwise be limited, providing ecosystem services in the abyss. Deep-sea corals face threats from human activities despite their remote locations. Bottom trawling fishing gear can destroy in seconds what took thousands of years to grow. Ocean acidification affects deep water as it does shallow. Warming penetrates eventually to depth. Pollution accumulates in the abyss. These ancient organisms that survived naturally for millennia find themselves vulnerable to anthropogenic changes happening faster than they can adapt to, threatened by activities occurring in world they've never seen by species they've never encountered. The smell of the ocean, that distinctive salty, slightly fishy, organic aroma that seaside towns have, that beaches carry on the breeze, that instantly evokes memories of coastal vacations and maritime experiences, is actually produced in significant part by a chemical called dimethyl sulfide, or DMS, released by coral reefs and by the zooxanthellae algae living within coral tissue, serving important function in cloud formation and climate regulation. When zooxanthellae are stressed or damaged by excessive heat, by UV radiation, by other environmental stresses, they release DMSP, dimethyl sulfonneopropionate, which breaks down into DMS, a volatile sulfur compound that escapes from the water into the atmosphere, where it acts as cloud condensation nuclei, tiny particles around which water vapor can condense, forming clouds that reflect sunlight back into space, potentially creating cooling effect that helps regulate Earth's climate. This remarkable connection means reefs aren't just passive inhabitants of the ocean, but active participants in global climate systems, that coral health affects atmospheric chemistry and cloud formation, that the integrity of reef ecosystems has implications extending far beyond the reef itself into atmospheric processes that affect entire planet. The reef literally helps seed the clouds above it, influences weather and climate in ways we're only beginning to understand. The smell of the ocean then carries message from the coral reef, chemical communication from stressed zooxanthellae, signal of environmental conditions in the reef ecosystem, making the familiar seaside smell not just pleasant sensory experience, but information about ocean health, about reef conditions, about the state of the symbiosis that makes reef ecosystems possible. Corals can produce their own natural sunscreen, compounds called mycosporin-like amino acids, or MEAs, to protect themselves from damaging UV radiation in shallow tropical waters where sunlight is intense, where the clear water provides little UV filtering, where overexposure would damage coral tissue and the zooxanthellae living within it, threatening the symbiosis that the coral depends on for nutrition and energy. These UV protective compounds absorb harmful radiation before it can damage DNA or proteins, similar to how commercial sunscreen works, protecting the delicate tissues and the even more delicate algal cells from radiation damage that would impair photosynthesis, damage cellular machinery, potentially kill the algae, and starve the coral of its primary food source. Different coral species produce different amounts and types of sunscreen compounds, with corals in shallow, high UV environments generally producing more protection than corals in deeper or more shaded areas, demonstrating that these compounds are adaptive response to environmental conditions, that corals can adjust their protection levels based on the radiation environment they experience. Researchers are studying coral sunscreen compounds for potential human applications, investigating whether these natural UV protective chemicals might be developed into more effective or more environmentally friendly sunscreens for human use. Another example of how studying reef ecosystems provides insights and potential resources that benefit humanity, giving us pragmatic reason to protect reefs beyond their intrinsic value and ecological importance. The ability to produce sunscreen also gives hope for coral adaptation to climate change. If corals can adjust their UV protection, perhaps they can adapt to warming waters and changing conditions. Perhaps natural selection will favor corals with greater stress tolerance. Perhaps reefs can evolve fast enough to keep pace with human-caused changes. This hope must be tempered with realism about rates of change and limits of adaptation. But it reminds us that corals aren't passive victims, but living organisms with evolutionary potential. There are three main types of reef structures, each with distinctive formation process and characteristic appearance. Fringing reefs that grow directly along coastlines, forming narrow bands of coral hugging the shore, developing in shallow water near land masses. barrier reefs that parallel coastlines but are separated from shore by deep lagoons, creating protected water between reef and land. Famous example being the Great Barrier Reef, and atolls, circular or horseshoe-shaped reefs surrounding a central lagoon, typically formed around subsiding volcanic islands, creating ring-shaped islands in the open ocean. Fringing reefs are the most common type, found wherever conditions are suitable for coral growth near shore. Clear, warm water, moderate wave action, hard substrate for attachment, sufficient sunlight for zooxanthellae. They're relatively small structures, typically only hundreds of meters wide, forming continuous or patchy bands along coastlines, providing habitat and protection, but lacking the scale and complexity of larger reef structures. Barrier reefs are more impressive, separated from shore by lagoons that can be miles wide and hundreds of feet deep, creating extensive protected water areas, developing where coastlines are subsiding or sea level is rising, allowing reef to grow upward while maintaining distance from shore, creating linear reef structures that can stretch for hundreds of miles along continental margins or large island coasts. Atolls are most dramatic, circular reefs enclosing lagoons, typically found in the open ocean far from continental land masses, created through fascinating geological process involving volcanic subsidence and coral growth, demonstrating the interplay of geological and biological processes over millions of years, creating some of the most beautiful and ecologically significant reef structures on Earth. An atoll's formation tells a remarkable story. It begins as fringing reef around volcanic island, the coral growing in shallow water encircling the volcanic peak. As the volcano gradually subsides, sinking slowly into the seafloor, as the underlying tectonic plate moves and the volcanic edifice cools and contracts, the reef continues growing upward, maintaining its position near the surface, keeping pace with the sinking island through patient upward growth. Eventually, the volcanic island sinks completely below the surface, disappearing into the ocean. But the reef remains, continuing to grow upward, forming circular structure marking the former island's position, enclosing lagoon that was once the shallow water between fringing reef and volcanic slopes, creating the characteristic atoll form, ring of coral surrounding calm central lagoon, the ghost of the vanished volcano. This process takes millions of years, requiring both persistent reef growth and steady volcanic subsidence, demonstrating how geological and biological processes interact over deep time to create structures that neither process could create alone, how living organisms respond to and modify geological changes, how time and patience transform islands into atolls through gradual processes operating at scales humans rarely contemplate. The water inside a coral atoll is often perfectly still, sheltered turquoise, protected from the deep blue of the open ocean by the encircling reef, calmer and clearer than surrounding waters, creating lagoons that are among the most beautiful aquatic environments on Earth, famous for their clarity, their color, their peacefulness that attracts tourists and provides protected harbors for communities that develop on atoll islands. The sheltered lagoon water supports its own ecosystem, distinct from both the outer reef exposed to open ocean and the inner reef facing the lagoon, creating habitat diversity that increases the total biodiversity the atoll supports, providing nursery grounds for juvenile fish, foraging areas for species that couldn't survive in high-energy outer reef environments, specialized niches that add to the atoll's ecological richness. The color contrast is striking. The deep indigo blue of open ocean water, the turquoise and aquamarine of shallow lagoon water, the white foam of waves breaking on the outer reef, creating visual experience that's breathtaking from air or boat, that makes atolls instantly recognizable from satellite imagery, that contributes to these structures appeal as symbols of tropical paradise and untouched natural beauty. Many atolls in the Pacific and Indian Oceans are inhabited, supporting small communities that have lived on these remote reef structures for centuries or millennia, developing cultures adapted to atoll life, dependent on reef resources, intimately connected to reef health and productivity, making these communities among the most vulnerable to reef degradation and climate change that threatens the foundations, quite literally, of their home islands. Brain coral gets its common name from its winding, maze-like surface texture that remarkably resembles the convoluted folds of a human brain. The valleys and ridges of the coral's surface, mimicking the gyri and sulci of cerebral cortex, creating visual parallel that's striking enough that the resemblance is immediately obvious even to casual observers, making brain coral one of the most recognizable and memorable coral forms. The maze-like surface isn't just visual curiosity, but represents the coral's growth form. The valleys are where the individual polyps sit, arranged in long continuous rows, the ridges between valleys being the walls of the shared skeleton, creating structure that maximizes polyp number and surface area while maintaining structural integrity. Elegant solution to the engineering challenges of colonial coral growth. Brain corals are typically massive, boulder-forming species that grow as large, rounded heads. Some specimens reaching several meters in diameter, representing centuries of growth. Incredibly old structures that have persisted through storms and temperature fluctuations and all the various stresses that reef environments impose, surviving through massive, solid construction that resists breakage and can heal from damage. The name brain coral actually applies to several different coral species across multiple families, all convergently evolved the same distinctive growth form, demonstrating that this structure offers significant advantages in reef environments, that natural selection has repeatedly favored this particular architectural solution to the challenges of colonial growth and survival in wave-swept tropical waters. Staghorn coral grows in long, elegant branches that look like the antlers of a deer resting on the seafloor, the branches extending upward and outward from the colony's base, creating three-dimensional structure that provides exceptional habitat complexity, offering shelter and attachment surfaces for countless fish and invertebrates, representing one of the most important habitat-forming corals in Caribbean and Indo-Pacific reefs. The branching growth form allows rapid three-dimensional expansion, with colonies growing outward and upward quickly compared to massive species, creating habitat and occupying space efficiently, competing effectively for the sunlight that zooxanthellae need, positioning polyps throughout the water column to maximize plankton capture while maintaining access to light for photosynthesis. But the branching form is also fragile. The slender branches break easily in storms, are vulnerable to anchor damage, and careless divers can't withstand the same mechanical stress that massive brain corals shrug off, making staghorn coral paradoxically both successful in ideal conditions and vulnerable to disturbance, thriving in perfect environments but declining rapidly when conditions deteriorate or physical damage occurs. Staghorn coral has declined dramatically in Caribbean reefs over recent decades due to disease, bleaching, physical damage, and other stresses, transforming reefs from dense staghorn thickets supporting abundant fish populations to degraded rubble fields with sparse coral cover, demonstrating how loss of single keystone species can fundamentally alter entire ecosystem structure and function, reducing habitat, productivity, and biodiversity. Let these reef facts settle gently into your awareness like sediment drifting through clear water. Corals are animals, tiny polyps in communities of thousands. They build limestone skeletons slowly, patiently. The Great Barrier Reef visible from space. Colors from algae, not from coral tissue. The partnership called symbiosis. Nighttime tentacles catching plankton. The internal clock synchronizing spawning. Underwater snowstorm rising to the moon. Soft corals swaying like willows. Reefs absorbing 97% of wave energy. 25% of marine life in 1% of ocean. 500 million years of building. Deep sea corals 4,000 years old. DMS seeding clouds above. Natural sunscreen protecting from UV. Fringing reefs, barrier reefs, atolls. Volcanic subsidence creating rings. Brain corals maze-like folds. Staghorns' elegant branches. And the countless lives these architects of calm support, shelter, feed, protect in underwater cities built by billions of tiny hands working together through deep time. Rest here in the EE. Peaceful knowledge of the reef, the ancient structures patiently growing, the partnerships enabling life in seemingly barren waters, the productivity and diversity concentrated in these underwater rainforests. The reef builds while you rest, polyps adding skeleton grain by grain, colonies expanding millimeter by millimeter, the patient work continuing day and night, tide after tide, moon after moon, year after year, century after century, building beauty and shelter and abundance the warm tropical seas. The sun sets over the reef, painting the surface gold and orange, then fading to deep blue twilight, and finally into the velvet darkness of night. The daytime world retreats, the parrotfish finding their sleeping spots, the butterfly fish tucking into coral crevices, the angelfish settling into their nighttime hiding places, the entire day shift preparing for rest while a completely different cast of characters emerges into the cooling water. This is the nocturnal symphony, the second act, the hidden world that most humans never see, the reef after dark, when bioluminescence replaces sunlight, when hunters emerge from caves and crevices, when the ocean's largest migration rises from the depths, when corals pulse and spawn and feed with tentacles fully extended, when the reef transforms from the bright, colorful garden of daytime into something more mysterious, more ancient, more primordial. Let us continue our journey into these deeper rhythms, into the night shift of the reef, into the world of octopuses changing color in milliseconds, of lionfish hunting with fan-like fins, of Spanish dancers performing their undulating ballet, of bioluminescent sparkles in the water, of nautilus rising from the depths, of mantis shrimp with impossible vision, of eagle rays gliding in silent squadrons. We'll discover the mucus cocoons that parrotfish sleep in, the three hearts of octopuses, the burglar alarm effect of glowing plankton, the living fossils unchanged for millions of years, the fastest punch in the animal kingdom, the peaceful grazing of dugongs in seagrass meadows, the moon's influence on spawning, the hope found in heat-resistant corals and restoration gardens. So settle deeper into rest as the reef settles into night. Feel the cooling water. Sense the shift from solar to lunar rhythms, and drift with me into the nocturnal symphony, into the deep rhythms, into the peaceful darkness where the reef continues its ancient work under stars and moon. As the sun sets, the day shift fish retreat into the reef's countless nooks and crannies, wedging themselves into coral crevices, hiding under ledges, finding protective spaces where they'll spend the night, relatively safe from predators. The diurnal fish, those active during daylight, have specific sleeping spots they return to night after night, familiar hiding places they've claimed as their own, secure locations where they can rest while the nocturnal hunters patrol the darkening waters. This changing of the guard happens with remarkable consistency, timed to the fading light, occurring with the same predictability as human commuters leaving work at day's end, the daytime inhabitants of the reef clocking out, heading home, settling in for rest while nocturnal species wake from their daytime slumber and emerge into the silence and darkness that is their realm, their time, their opportunity. The octopuses unfurl from the caves where they've spent the day, their soft bodies squeezing through impossibly small openings, their 8 arms reaching and exploring, their intelligent eyes, remarkably similar to human eyes despite completely independent evolution, scanning the reef for prey and threats. The moray eels become more active, no longer just heads poking from holes, but entire bodies emerging to hunt, to patrol, to search for sleeping fish and unwary crustaceans. The reef doesn't sleep, it just changes shifts, transitions from one community to another, maintains its activity and productivity around the clock, but with different actors playing different roles, the ecosystem continuing to function, to feed, to hunt, to grow, to reproduce, never pausing, never resting as a whole, even as individual organisms take their turns at rest and activity. This day-night rhythm is fundamental to reef ecology, creating temporal niches just as physical structures create spatial niches, allowing more species to coexist by dividing time as well as space, enabling the extraordinary biodiversity that makes reefs so rich, so complex, so endlessly fascinating to observe and study and protect. Octopuses are the masters of nighttime camouflage, possessing one of nature's most sophisticated camouflage systems, able to change both their color and texture to match their surroundings in milliseconds, transforming from smooth red octopus to bumpy white rock to mottled brown coral in the blink of an eye, creating disguises so perfect that prey and predators alike cannot detect them even from inches away. The camouflage isn't just color change, though that alone is remarkable, achieved through specialized cells called chromatophores that contain pigments and can expand or contract to show or hide their colors. The octopus also changes texture, raising bumps called papillae all over its skin, transforming smooth surface into rough, rocky texture that matches the substrate it's resting on, adding three-dimensional element to camouflage that defeats predators relying on texture as well as color to detect prey. This transformation happens through direct nervous system control. The octopus's brain sends signals to skin cells, commanding color and texture changes, coordinating millions of individual changes into coherent pattern that matches environment, all happening faster than human eye can follow. So quickly that watching octopus move across varied substrate creates impression of skin literally flowing through different patterns and textures. The sophistication is even more remarkable because octopuses are colorblind. They can't see the colors they're so perfectly matching. Instead, using other cues like brightness and polarization of light to determine what pattern to display, demonstrating that effective camouflage doesn't require seeing the colors you're matching, that other sensory information can guide perfectly adequate color selection. The nighttime hunting octopus uses this camouflage not just to hide from predators, but to stalk prey, approaching sleeping fish or unsuspecting crabs while looking exactly like the reef around them, getting close enough to pounce before prey realizes danger, using intelligence and camouflage together to become one of the reef's most effective nighttime predators, despite lacking shells or spines or any obvious defensive structures. Octopuses have 3 hearts and blue blood. 2 small hearts pump blood through the gills where it picks up oxygen, and 1 larger heart pumps oxygenated blood through the body to supply tissues and organs. The blood is blue because it uses copper-based hemocyanin to carry oxygen rather than the iron-based hemoglobin that makes vertebrate blood red, with copper being more efficient for oxygen transport in cold water and low oxygen environments. When octopuses are resting quietly, conserving energy during daylight hours or between hunting bouts, only 1 heart beats, the main systemic heart that circulates blood through the body. The 2 gill hearts pause, reducing energy expenditure, allowing the octopus to maintain basic metabolism without burning calories unnecessarily, demonstrating remarkable physiological control and efficiency. This 3-heart system enables the octopus's active lifestyle. Their soft bodies without rigid skeletons require efficient circulation to maintain structure and enable movement. Their large brains require substantial oxygen delivery. Their active, predatory lifestyle demands energy that efficient circulation provides, making the complex cardiovascular system essential for their success as intelligent, active invertebrate predators. The blue blood that circulates through these 3 hearts is visible through translucent skin in some species, creating ethereal appearance, reminding observers that octopuses are fundamentally different from vertebrates, despite their intelligence and complex behavior, that they represent completely different evolutionary solution to the challenges of active predation and complex cognition. The great barracuda is a sit-and-wait predator that hunts through patience rather than constant activity, often hovering perfectly still in the dark water like a silver ghost, its elongated body motionless, its sharp teeth visible in its perpetual grimace, waiting for prey fish to swim close enough for the explosive burst of speed that characterizes barracuda attacks, the lightning-fast acceleration that closes distance in fraction of a second, too fast for a prey to react or escape. This stillness is itself intimidating. The barracuda hanging in blue water, barely moving, its presence both obvious and somehow threatening through sheer motionless intensity, creating unease in divers who encounter these large predators. Even though barracudas rarely pose danger to humans, preferring fish prey but commanding respect through size and visible dentition and that unnervingly motionless hovering. The hunting strategy is energy efficient rather than constantly patrolling and burning calories searching for prey. The barracuda waits, letting prey come to it, conserving energy until the moment when explosive speed is needed, then returning to patient waiting, repeating the cycle through the night, catching enough fish to sustain itself while minimizing energy expenditure between strikes. At night, barracudas become more active, using the cover of darkness to approach prey more closely before striking, taking advantage of reduced visibility that makes their silver bodies harder to see, that allows closer approach before the explosive acceleration that brings powerful jaws to bear on prey fish too slow or too unlucky to escape the attack. Crabs and lobsters use the cover of darkness to emerge from crevices and venture into open areas of the reef, scavenging for food, their antennae constantly waving to sample the water around them, detecting chemical signals that reveal location of food sources, of potential mates, of approaching predators, providing information about their environment that their relatively poor eyesight cannot supply. The waving antennae are chemoreceptors, organs that detect dissolved chemicals in water, much as terrestrial animals use smell and taste to gather information about their environment, but operating in aquatic medium where chemicals diffuse differently, where scent trails persist and provide directional information, where the chemical landscape provides rich information to creatures equipped to sense it. Crabs walk sideways across the reef, their claws held ready to grab food or defend against threats, their hard exoskeletons providing armor that allows them to venture into areas where softer-bodied creatures would be too vulnerable, their omnivorous diet allowing them to eat virtually anything they encounter, making them important scavengers that help clean the reef of dead material and redistribute nutrients. Lobsters are more cautious, walking forward slowly, their large claws extended, their antennae sweeping constantly, detecting the slightest disturbance in water or chemical signals that might indicate danger or opportunity, retreating into crevices at the first sign of threat, but venturing out regularly to feed on the diverse food sources the nighttime reef provides. These crustaceans are the reef's cleanup crew, the recyclers that prevent dead material from accumulating, that convert carrion into living biomass, that keep the reef clean and healthy through their scavenging activities, playing crucial ecosystem role that's more visible at night when they're most active, when their importance becomes obvious to observers watching the nighttime reef community. Feather stars, also called crinoids, look like delicate ferns or flowers with multiple feathery arms radiating from a central body, resembling plants more than animals, but actually being ancient echinoderms related to starfish and sea urchins. During the day, they often remain folded or hidden, but at night they climb to the highest points of the reef, using small, grasping appendages to ascend coral heads or rock outcrops, positioning themselves in current where they unfurl their arms into beautiful feeding structures. The unfurled feather star creates living basket, its arms extended to maximum span. Tiny tube feet on the arms creating surface area that captures passing plankton and organic particles. filtering food from water flowing past, converting current into sustenance through patient, passive feeding that requires only maintaining position and keeping arms extended while water brings food to them. The arms are hypnotically beautiful, moving gently in current, creating flowing patterns, coming in colors from yellows and oranges to deep reds and purples, making feather stars among the reef's most photogenic and visually striking creatures, beloved by photographers and videographers who capture their otherworldly beauty in images that seem almost alien, too perfect to be real. Feather stars can swim when necessary, moving their arms in coordinated waves that propel them through water, usually to escape predators or reach better feeding locations, demonstrating that these apparently passive filter feeders possess surprising mobility when circumstances require, that they're not as helpless as their delicate appearance might suggest. Some corals pulse rhythmically at night, exhibiting slow, hypnotic movement where the entire coral colony expands and contracts in gentle rhythm, the polyps inflating and deflating together, creating mesmerizing visual effect like the reef itself breathing, like the coral has heartbeat, pulsing with life in coordinated movement that serves important physiological functions. This pulsing helps circulate water through the coral colony, bringing fresh oxygen and nutrients to polyps, removing waste products and metabolic byproducts, maintaining healthy conditions within the colony despite dense packing of individual polyps, preventing stagnation that could occur in the still water trapped among coral branches and ridges. The pulsing also enhances feeding efficiency, drawing plankton closer to tentacles, creating water currents that improve capture rates, helping polyps obtain the supplementary nutrition from plankton that complements the sugars they receive from their zooxanthellae, maintaining the balanced diet that supports growth and reproduction. Watching pulsing corals is meditative experience. The slow, regular, rhythm-inducing relaxation in observers, creating sense of connection to the reef's living rhythms, to the quiet persistence of these ancient animals, continuing their patient work of building and growing through the night, through the seasons, through the years and centuries of their existence. The cuttlefish is known as the chameleon of the sea, possessing even more sophisticated camouflage than octopuses, capable not just of color and texture change, but of creating complex moving patterns on its skin, waves of color that ripple across its body, zebra stripe patterns that appear and disappear, shapes and designs that flow and morph in mesmerizing displays used for camouflage, for hunting, and especially for communication with other cuttlefish in the dark water. These flashing patterns of light and color are visual language, cuttlefish communicating with conspecifics through skin displays, males showing aggressive patterns to rival males while simultaneously showing courting, patterns to females on opposite side of their body, demonstrating remarkable control and creating split displays that allow complex social signaling impossible with vocal or chemical communication. The communication happens at speeds humans can barely follow, the patterns changing faster than speech, conveying information about intent and status and willingness to fight or mate, creating visual conversation that's fundamental to cuttlefish social structure and reproduction, enabling coordination despite relative silence of underwater environment where sound travels differently than in air. Cuttlefish also use their camouflage and patterning abilities for hunting, mesmerizing prey with flowing patterns that seem to hypnotize small fish and shrimp, allowing the cuttlefish to approach closely before shooting out specialized feeding tentacles that grab prey faster than eye can follow, demonstrating that elaborate visual display serves multiple functions: communication, camouflage, and predation, all supported by same sophisticated skin control system. Zooplankton, the countless tiny organisms that form the base of ocean food chains, rise from the deep ocean to the surface every night in what's called diel vertical migration, the largest migration on Earth by biomass, involving trillions of individuals representing thousands of species, all moving hundreds of feet or more vertically through the water column in daily rhythm, timed to light levels, rising at dusk and descending at dawn. This massive migration brings nutrients from deep water to surface, brings food to surface-dwelling predators, connects different ocean layers ecologically, and importantly for the reef, brings abundance of food to coral polyps extending their feeding tentacles at night, to fish and other reef creatures that feed on plankton, providing regular nighttime feast that supplements daytime productivity. The migration is thought to be predator avoidance strategy. Zooplankton feed in productive surface waters under cover of darkness, then retreat to the deep during daylight when visibility would make them easy prey for visual predators, trading the higher pressure and lower temperature and increased energy cost of vertical movement for increased survival, demonstrating that migration isn't just terrestrial phenomenon, but fundamental ocean ecology pattern. For the reef at night, this migration means food abundance, a regular influx of nutrients and biomass that arrives with darkness and departs with dawn, providing predictable resource that reef creatures have evolved to exploit, timing their feeding to match plankton arrival, emerging at night partly because that's when their food is most available, most concentrated in the water column. Basket stars are extraordinary brittle stars with hundreds of branching arms that they weave into complex, tangled nets resembling inverted baskets, or elaborate Celtic knot designs, creating three-dimensional structures that serve as passive traps for plankton and small organisms. The countless branch tips providing surface area that captures food from passing water, converting current into nutrition through elegant structural solution. During the day, basket stars remain coiled and compact, their arms furled tightly, their bodies hidden in crevices or under ledges, inconspicuous and well protected. But at night they emerge and climb to prominent positions, unfurling their arms in elaborate display that transforms them from barely visible tangles into spectacular feeding structures that can span several feet, creating some of the reef's most photogenic and visually complex nighttime inhabitants. The arms branch repeatedly, each arm dividing into two, then each branch dividing again, continuing through multiple generations of branching until the basket star has created incredibly complex structure with surface area far exceeding its body size. Efficient design for capturing microscopic food from water, maximizing feeding success while minimizing the tissue that must be maintained and defended. Watching basket stars unfurl is a fascinating process. The arms slowly extending and branching, the entire structure gradually revealing itself like flower opening in extreme slow motion. the final form barely resembling the coiled tangle from which it emerged. Transformation that demonstrates the flexibility and structural sophistication these ancient echinoderms have evolved. Many reef fish, like the parrotfish, create a mucus cocoon around themselves at night, secreting mucus from specialized glands and spreading it over their entire body until they're enclosed in thin but complete envelope of protective slime. A sleeping bag that masks their scent from predators that hunt by smell, that provides barrier against parasites, that creates microenvironment protecting the sleeping fish through the vulnerable night hours. This cocoon acts like sleeping bag, providing thin but effective layer of protection in the dark, preventing predators like moray eels, which hunt largely by smell, from detecting the sleeping fish, allowing the parrotfish to rest in relative security despite being unable to flee quickly from concealed sleeping position wedged into coral crevice. The mucus production takes energy and materials, representing significant investment in nighttime protection, but apparently the benefit outweighs the cost, the increased survival from reduced predation, justifying the metabolic expense of producing new cocoon each evening, dissolving and abandoning the old cocoon each morning when the fish wakes and resumes active daytime life. Not all parrotfish species create cocoons, and individuals within species that can create them don't always do so, suggesting that cocoon production is facultative response to perceived risk, that fish assess their situation and decide whether protection is worth the cost, demonstrating behavioral flexibility and decision-making that we don't usually associate with fish, but that appears to be more common than previously recognized. Lionfish are elegant but lethal nocturnal hunters, native to Indo-Pacific reefs, but invasive in Atlantic and Caribbean, where they've established populations causing significant ecological damage. Their hunting technique uses their fan-like fins, the elaborate striped pectoral fins that give them their distinctive appearance, to corner prey against reef walls or into crevices, herding small fish into positions where escape becomes impossible, where the lionfish's quick strike captures prey, despite the relatively slow, deliberate swimming that characterizes these ornate predators. The fins aren't just tools for herding, but also warnings. The bright stripes and elaborate extensions advertise the lionfish's venomous spines, warning potential predators that attacking this fish would be a painful mistake, that the dorsal spines can deliver venom that causes intense pain, swelling, and systemic effects, making lionfish dangerous to handle and giving them protection from most natural predators. In their native range, lionfish are part of a balanced ecosystem, their populations controlled by predators and competitors, their predation kept in check by the reef community's evolved responses. But in invaded Atlantic waters, they lack natural predators, reproduce rapidly, consume enormous numbers of small fish, including juvenile reef species, causing cascading effects through reef communities, reducing biodiversity, altering ecosystem structure, creating serious conservation concern. Management efforts include teaching sharks and groupers to eat lionfish, organizing spearfishing tournaments to remove invasive populations, developing markets for lionfish as food fish, all attempting to control populations and reduce impacts on invaded reefs, demonstrating that even elegant, beautiful predators can become serious problems when introduced beyond their natural range. The Spanish dancer is a large, vibrant nudibranch, a shellless sea slug that dances through the water at night with rhythmic, undulating motion, its body rippling in waves that propel it through open water in display that resembles flamenco dancers' swirling skirts, creating movement so distinctive and graceful that this species is among the ocean's most recognizable nudibranchs, beloved by divers lucky enough to witness their nighttime performances. The Spanish dancer is one of the largest nudibranchs, reaching lengths over a foot, its body typically bright red or orange, sometimes with white or yellow spots, colors warning potential predators of chemical defenses, toxins sequestered from sponges that nudibranch feeds on, repurposed as protection, making the Spanish dancer both beautiful and distasteful, a combination that allows it to swim openly rather than hiding like most nudibranchs. The dancing motion isn't just beautiful but functional. The undulations propel the nudibranch through water more efficiently than crawling, allow it to move between feeding sites, to search for mates, to flee from the few predators willing to tolerate its chemical defenses, demonstrating that what appears purely aesthetic often serves practical purposes, that beauty and function frequently align in natural selection. Watching Spanish dancers is a memorable experience, their size and grace and brilliant coloration combining to create underwater spectacle. Their unexpected appearance during night dives providing moments of wonder, of connection to the ocean's hidden beauty, of appreciation for the diversity and elegance that evolution produces in even such seemingly simple creatures as sea slugs. Sea turtles often find favorite sleeping ledges on the reef, particular spots they return to night after night, tucking their flippers close to their body and slowing their heart rate to reduce oxygen consumption, allowing them to stay underwater for hours without surfacing to breathe, resting in secure locations where they're protected from predators and disturbance, suspended in that state between sleep and waking that characterizes marine mammal and reptile rest. The ledges are chosen carefully, overhangs that provide protection from above, locations with good water flow bringing oxygen, positions that allow turtle to wedge itself securely so it won't drift away during rest, spots that offer security and comfort through the long night hours when the turtle is relatively vulnerable, unable to flee quickly from concealed resting position. The slowed heart rate and metabolism are remarkable adaptations enabling extended submersion, the turtle essentially entering torpor-like state that dramatically reduces oxygen requirements, allowing it to go hours between breaths, to remain hidden and undisturbed through the night, to rest without the constant surfacing that would break sleep and potentially expose it to predators. Turtles sometimes sleep in groups, multiple individuals using the same favorable locations, creating turtle aggregations at certain sleeping ledges, though each turtle remains separated, not touching neighbors, maintaining individual space while benefiting from shared awareness that multiple turtles provide, the group offering some protection through collective vigilance even in sleep. Box jellyfish are mostly transparent, their bodies nearly invisible as they pulse gently through the moonlit shallows, creating eerie and beautiful sight, barely perceptible shapes moving through the water, their tentacles trailing behind them, their simple bodies propelling them with rhythmic contractions that create gentle, graceful motion, despite the simplicity of their body plan and nervous system. The transparency serves as camouflage and predator avoidance. Predators can't easily target what they can't see. Prey don't flee from approaching threat. They don't detect, allowing box jellyfish to exist in open water despite lack of armor or hard structures, despite being mostly soft, vulnerable tissue that's easy to damage if predators can locate and attack it. Box jellyfish are named for their cube-shaped bell with tentacles hanging from the four corners, creating distinctive shape among jellies. Though this shape is more visible when jellyfish is examined closely than when encountered in open water where transparency makes shape difficult to discern, where the tentacles may be the only easily visible part. Despite their delicate appearance, box jellyfish possess potent venom, with some species delivering stings that are extremely dangerous to humans, causing intense pain and potentially fatal reactions, making these ethereal, beautiful creatures also some of the ocean's most dangerous, reminding us that toxicity and beauty often coexist in marine species. That caution is warranted even with creatures that appear harmless and lovely. The hawksbill turtle uses its distinctive bird-like beak, the feature that gives it its common name, to reach deep into the reef's crevices for sponges, its favorite food, using the narrow pointed beak to access food sources that other turtles cannot reach, specializing in diet that few other creatures can exploit. The sponges containing chemical defenses that make them toxic to most potential predators, but somehow tolerated by hawksbills. This dietary specialization makes hawksbills important for reef ecology. They control sponge populations, prevent sponges from overgrowing corals, maintain balance between competing species, provide service that benefits coral health even though the turtles are simply pursuing their own needs, eating their preferred food without conscious intention to help the reef. The beak-like mouth is not just shaped differently, but also differently structured than other sea turtles' mouths, with sharp cutting edges that can slice through tough sponge tissue, with strength to crush and break sponge structures with anatomy specifically adapted for their specialized diet, demonstrating how evolution shapes morphology to match ecology, how form follows function in natural selection. Hawksbills are critically endangered, threatened by hunting for their beautiful shells, used in jewelry and decorative items despite international protection, by egg harvesting, by habitat loss, by fishing bycatch, by plastic pollution, making their continued existence uncertain, creating urgency for conservation efforts that would protect these ancient mariners and maintain the ecological services they provide to reef communities. Bioluminescent algae called dinoflagellates create a sparkling effect in the water whenever a fish swims by or a wave disturbs them, the mechanical disturbance triggering chemical reaction that produces light, creating blue-green sparkles that illuminate movement, that create trails of light behind swimming creatures, that transform nighttime water into magical space filled with living stars, with biological fireflies that glow and fade in fraction of a second. This glowing light serves as defense mechanism called the burglar alarm effect, meant to startle predators that are hunting the plankton, to make the predator itself visible to larger predators higher in the food chain, essentially calling for help, attracting bigger threats to eat the attacker, protecting the dinoflagellates through indirect means by making their consumption dangerous for predators who might become prey themselves. The effect is spectacular for human observers. Swimming through water at night creates swirls of light. Each movement of arms and legs generates sparkles, creating experience that feels magical, otherworldly, unforgettable, making bioluminescent bays and reefs popular tourist destinations, places where people can literally swim through liquid light, can see their movements illuminated by living organisms. The chemistry involves luciferin and luciferase, the same molecules that create light in fireflies and many other bioluminescent organisms, demonstrating that nature has repeatedly evolved similar solutions to the challenge of creating biological light, that the chemistry of bioluminescence is so effective that it appears across diverse taxa that evolved the ability independently. Squid use ink clouds not just to hide, though obscuring the predator's view is certainly useful, but as decoys that are roughly the same size and shape as the squid itself, the ink maintaining coherent form rather than immediately dispersing, creating pseudomorph that predators may attack while the real squid flees in different direction, providing misdirection that increases escape success, demonstrating sophisticated defensive strategy that's more clever than simple smokescreen. The ink is produced by specialized ink sac, stored and released on demand, mixed with mucus to give it coherent form, ejected forcefully to position it where the squid was, creating false target, while the squid simultaneously jets away using its siphon propulsion, moving quickly in direction that predator isn't watching because it's focused on the ink decoy. The ink also contains compounds that dull predators' sense of smell, interfering with chemical detection that many predators use to track prey, providing additional defensive benefit beyond visual confusion, attacking multiple sensory systems simultaneously, making the ink a truly sophisticated defensive tool rather than simple obscurant. Some squid species can produce multiple ink clouds in quick succession, creating series of decoys, further confusing predators, demonstrating that ink supply is substantial and that deploying it multiple times is energetically feasible, that this defense is reliable enough to use repeatedly rather than being last resort measure saved for extreme danger. The Nautilus is a living fossil that has remained essentially unchanged for 500 million years, its basic body plan and shell structure persisting through countless environmental changes, through mass extinctions that eliminated countless other lineages, through radical shifts in ocean chemistry and temperature and sea level, surviving through 500 million years while the world transformed around it, making Nautilus one of Earth's most ancient mariners, a direct link to oceans of the Paleozoic era. During the day, Nautilus rests in deep water, in darkness and cold, in depths where pressures are intense, where few predators venture, safe in the abyss from the dangers of shallow reef environments. But at night, it rises to the reef, ascending hundreds of feet through the water column, coming to shallower water where food is more abundant, where temperatures are warmer, where hunting opportunities are better, then descending again before dawn back to the deep water sanctuary. The daily vertical migration requires managing buoyancy carefully, The Nautilus's shell is divided into chambers, with the animal's body occupying only the outermost, largest chamber. The other chambers filled with gas and liquid in proportions that the Nautilus can adjust, changing buoyancy by moving fluid into or out of chambers, by adjusting gas pressure, by precisely controlling its depth in the water column without need for constant swimming. This buoyancy control is achieved through a structure called the siphuncle, a tube running through all the chambers, enabling the Nautilus to move water and adjust gas content to make itself more or less buoyant as needed, to rise and sink with minimal energy expenditure. Elegant solution to the challenge of vertical migration, allowing access to both shallow and deep water without the metabolic cost of constant swimming that active vertical migration would require. The beautiful spiraled shell protects the soft-bodied cephalopod inside, provides structure for muscle attachment, creates chambers for buoyancy control, demonstrates one of nature's most elegant forms, the logarithmic spiral that expands proportionally as it grows, maintaining the same shape at all scales, creating the distinctive coiled form that makes Nautilus shells treasured by collectors and powerful symbols in mathematics and art. Conch shells, large spiral shells sometimes reaching a foot long, are home to large sea snails that live in these mobile fortresses, hopping across the sandy floor near the reef using a sharp, claw-like structure on their foot called an operculum, which they use to push against the sand to lever their shell forward in distinctive hopping motion rather than the smooth gliding that characterizes most snail movement. The hopping is surprisingly fast and can be sustained for extended periods, allowing conchs to escape predators that would otherwise overtake them, to move between feeding areas, to search for mates, demonstrating that even snails, creatures we associate with slowness, can move quickly when properly motivated and equipped with appropriate structures. Conchs feed on algae and detritus, grazing across sandy and grassy areas around reefs, their feeding helping control algae growth, their movement through sediment disturbing and aerating sand, their waste providing nutrients, making them important parts of reef-adjacent ecosystems, even though they spend little time on the reef proper. The shells themselves become habitat once the snail dies. Hermit crabs move in, using abandoned conch shells as mobile homes. Various small fish and invertebrates shelter in empty shells, extending the shell's ecological importance beyond its original occupant, turning what was armor for one creature into habitat for several others, demonstrating how resources get recycled and reused in ecosystems, how nothing goes to waste, how even death of one organism creates opportunities for others. The blue-ringed octopus is tiny, usually just inches across, including arms, and normally appears drab brown or sea tan, perfectly camouflaged against rocky substrate, almost invisible as it hunts small crustaceans and shellfish, seemingly harmless, easy to overlook or even handle if encountered by unwary diver or beachcomber. But when threatened, the octopus displays its namesake blue rings, vivid, iridescent blue circles that appear all over its body, pulsing and glowing with warning coloration that advertises danger, that signals "do not touch, I am dangerous," that provides clear visual warning to any potential predator or threat. The warning is accurate. Blue-ringed octopuses carry tetrodotoxin, the same deadly neurotoxin found in pufferfish, delivered through the octopus's beak with a bite, causing paralysis and potentially death, with no anti-venom available, making these tiny octopuses among the ocean's most dangerous creatures despite their small size, capable of killing adult humans, demanding respect and caution from anyone encountering them. The combination of small size, camouflaged appearance, and extreme toxicity makes blue-ringed octopuses particularly dangerous. People don't recognize the threat, may pick them up or handle them carelessly, may not even realize they've been bitten until symptoms begin, creating situations where what seems like harmless curiosity about small tide pool creature becomes medical emergency. Stonefish are the ultimate masters of stillness, perfectly mimicking a mossy rock or piece of coral rubble for days at a time, their lumpy, textured bodies blending seamlessly with reef substrate, their coloration matching surrounding rocks, their lack of movement so complete that even alert prey fish swim within striking distance without detecting the predator, allowing stonefish to successfully ambush hunt despite being relatively slow and ungainly swimmers. The camouflage extends beyond just appearance. Stonefish allow algae and even small invertebrates to colonize their skin, enhancing the illusion that they're inanimate objects, adding layers of texture and complexity to their disguise, creating living camouflage that adapts and changes as the stonefish remains motionless. When prey approaches close enough, the stonefish strikes with startling speed, its large mouth opening suddenly, creating suction that inhales prey fish before it can react, swallowing the fish whole in fraction of a second, then returning to perfect stillness, waiting for next opportunity. Patient predator that can go long periods between meals because each successful strike provides substantial nutrition. Stonefish are also dangerous to humans. Their dorsal spines contain potent venom, among the most painful venoms known, causing extreme pain, swelling, potential tissue necrosis, occasionally death, making stonefish dangerous to step on, a significant hazard for people wading in shallow tropical waters where stonefish rest on bottom virtually invisible, where stepping on what appears to be rock can result in excruciating envenomation. Urchins move slowly across the reef on hundreds of tiny tube feet, the same hydraulic structures that starfish use, extending and contracting these feet in coordinated waves that propel the urchin gradually across the substrate, allowing it to graze on algae, to position itself in current, to seek shelter, all with patient, methodical movement that can cover surprising distances over time, despite slowness of individual steps. The urchins act as the reef's gardeners, their grazing keeping algae from overgrowing coral, maintaining balance between algae and coral that's crucial for reef health, preventing algae from smothering coral polyps, creating bare substrate where new corals can settle, providing ecosystem service that's essential for reef persistence, though the urchins are simply feeding, not consciously protecting coral. The importance of this grazing became tragically clear in Caribbean during 1980s, when disease killed most of the long-spined sea urchins, reducing grazing pressure, allowing algae to overgrow reefs, transforming coral-dominated systems to algae-dominated systems, demonstrating that even herbivores we might consider minor players perform crucial ecosystem functions, that their loss can fundamentally alter ecosystem structure and function. Urchins themselves are an important food source for various predators. Certain triggerfish specialize in flipping urchins and eating them through the unprotected underside. Lobsters crush urchins with powerful claws. Some wrasses can extract urchins from crevices, creating predator-prey relationships that connect urchins to broader food webs, making them important both as herbivores, controlling algae, and as prey, supporting predators. Pipefish are long, slender relatives of seahorses that mimic blades of seagrass or coral branches, holding themselves vertically in the water column, swaying gently with current, their elongated bodies and subdued coloration making them nearly invisible among the vegetation. They inhabit, protecting them from predators through crypsis, through becoming visually indistinguishable from non-living background. Like seahorses, male pipefish care for eggs, holding them in specialized brood pouch where they develop through early life stages, receiving protection and oxygen from the male parent, demonstrating the male parental care that characterizes the seahorse family, challenging typical patterns where females provide most parental investment, showing diversity in reproductive strategies that evolution produces. The mimicry is so effective that pipefish are extremely difficult to spot, even when present in substantial numbers, their camouflage defeating even alert observers searching specifically for them, requiring patience and trained eye to detect these cryptic hunters, making them favorites of underwater photographers who enjoy the challenge of finding and photographing these elusive creatures. Pipefish feed on tiny crustaceans and plankton, sucking prey into their tubular snouts, hunting through patient waiting, followed by quick strike when prey approaches close enough, demonstrating that even small, delicate-looking creatures can be effective predators when properly adapted to their ecological niche. The mantis shrimp has the fastest punch in the animal kingdom, capable of accelerating its club-like appendages at speeds that create cavitation bubbles in water, striking with force that can crack aquarium glass, that can split hard-shelled prey open with single blow, delivering impacts that generate heat and light from sheer mechanical energy, making these marine creatures unlikely holders of striking speed record. But despite this formidable capability, mantis shrimp spend most of their time quietly peering out from burrows, only the eyes and front portion of body visible, watching the reef with remarkable visual acuity, waiting for prey to approach close enough for the devastating strike, demonstrating that even the most formidably armed predators spend most of their time waiting rather than fighting or hunting. The eyes themselves are extraordinary. Mantis shrimp have 16 color-receptive cones in their eyes, where humans have only 3, allowing them to see types of light humans can't even imagine, including ultraviolet and polarized light, creating visual experience that's literally incomprehensible to human perception, that processes information we can't access, that enables discrimination of visual features we can't detect. The visual sophistication may seem excessive. Why does a predator need 16 color receptors? But research suggests it allows extremely rapid color processing, enabling instant recognition without complex neural computation, trading receptor number for processing speed, allowing mantis shrimp to identify prey, predators, and potential mates instantly without the time-consuming neural processing that fewer receptors would require. Eagle rays glide over the reef in squadrons, groups of rays moving together in synchronized formation, their wings moving in slow, bird-like rhythm that creates graceful, peaceful display. Their spotted or patterned backs creating visual interest, their size, wingspan sometimes reaching several feet, commanding attention, making encounters with eagle ray groups memorable experiences for divers lucky enough to witness these majestic creatures. The wing movements are rhythmic and graceful, suggesting effortless flight through water, though the mechanics are complex. The rays are creating thrust through undulating their pectoral fins, propelling themselves efficiently through three-dimensional ocean space, demonstrating that apparent grace often masks sophisticated mechanics, that what looks effortless represents refined adaptation. Eagle rays feed primarily on mollusks and crustaceans, using their flattened teeth to crush shells, their strong jaws to break through hard protective structures that would defeat other predators, making them important predators of benthic invertebrates, controlling populations and connecting reef-associated prey to pelagic predator in food web relationships. The group behavior, traveling in squadrons rather than solitarily, may provide multiple benefits: protection through numbers, more effective foraging through collective searching, social interaction that's important for mating and other purposes, demonstrating that even large, well-armed predators benefit from social groupings, that cooperation extends across diverse species and ecological contexts. The trumpetfish often hides by hovering vertically next to sea fans or gorgonians, positioning itself parallel to the vertical structures, matching their coloration through camouflage abilities, creating the impression that it's part of the coral structure rather than separate fish, deceiving both prey and predators through position and color matching combined. More remarkably, trumpetfish sometimes engage in shadowing behavior, swimming alongside or even riding on the backs of larger, peaceful fish like parrotfish or surgeonfish, using the larger fish as mobile blind, approaching prey that wouldn't tolerate direct approach by predator, but that ignore or tolerate the harmless herbivore, allowing trumpetfish to get within striking distance before darting out from behind its unwitting accomplice to capture prey. This behavior demonstrates sophisticated hunting strategy, using other species as tools, manipulating prey perceptions and responses, showing cognitive flexibility and behavioral complexity that fish don't typically receive credit for, challenging assumptions about fish intelligence and capability. The elongated body and terminal mouth allow trumpetfish to strike quickly once within range, creating suction that inhales small fish and crustaceans, providing the capture mechanism that the stalking behavior enables, making trumpetfish effective predators despite their relatively slow swimming and lack of obvious weapons or armor. Dugongs, also called sea cows, are gentle herbivores that graze on the seagrass meadows that often surround coral reefs or grow in protected bays and lagoons near reef systems, using their flexible snouts to uproot and consume seagrass, feeding for hours each day to meet the nutritional demands of their large bodies, playing an important role in seagrass ecosystem health through their grazing activities. Like their relatives, the manatees, dugongs are the source of many ancient mermaid legends told by lonely sailors. The gentle herbivores, seen from distance, perhaps appearing vaguely humanoid, their maternal care of calves, perhaps suggesting human mother-child relationships, their underwater singing perhaps seeming hauntingly human, creating mythical beings from prosaic reality of large marine mammals grazing underwater meadows. Dugongs are seriously endangered, threatened by hunting, by boat strikes, by fishing net entanglement, by habitat loss as seagrass meadows decline, making their continued existence uncertain, threatening to eliminate these ancient mariners, more closely related to elephants than to other marine mammals, from ecosystems where they've grazed for millions of years. The loss would affect more than just the dugongs. Seagrass ecosystems would change without their grazing. Nutrient cycling would be altered. The ecological services that dugongs provide would be lost, cascading through food webs and affecting broader marine community structure, demonstrating again that even large, visible, seemingly sturdy species can be threatened, that no creature is too big or too ancient to be endangered by human activities. The great white shark rarely visits coral reefs. They prefer cooler, more productive waters than tropical. Reef environments typically provide hunting seals and large fish in temperate zones, patrolling kelp forests and offshore islands, making reef encounters unusual, special occasions that transform the reef briefly into stage for apex predation. When great whites do visit reefs, they move with silent, effortless power that commands the entire ecosystem's attention. The sheer size and presence of these enormous predators, sometimes exceeding 20 feet and several tons, creating awe and fear, changing behavior of every creature aware of the shark's presence, creating what ecologists call landscape of fear, where prey species alter their behavior simply from knowing that apex predator is present. The great white's appearance challenges romantic notions of peaceful reef ecosystems, reminding observers that the ocean is a competitive environment where predation is reality, where fear and death are natural parts of ecological processes, where beauty and danger coexist, where the peace we perceive is dynamic equilibrium maintained through predator-prey relationships rather than absence of conflict. Despite their fearsome reputation, great whites are more vulnerable than dangerous to humans. They're hunted for fins and jaws, caught as bycatch, threatened by prey depletion, declining in numbers globally, creating conservation concern for species that needs protection from us, far more than we need protection from them, reversing the narrative of dangerous shark into threatened species requiring human stewardship. Cleaner shrimp will sometimes dance to attract the attention of fish that need cleaning, waving their long white antennae like flags, rocking their bodies side to side in distinctive motion that advertises their services, that signals to passing fish, "I am a cleaner, I can remove your parasites," establishing the relationship that enables the mutualistic interaction. The cleaning stations where these shrimp set up shop become important reef locations, places that fish visit regularly, that serve as social hubs where many species interact peacefully, where the normal predator-prey relationships are suspended in favor of the mutual benefits that cleaning provides, creating islands of truce in otherwise competitive reef environments. The shrimp provide genuine service, removing parasites, cleaning wounds, picking food particles from teeth and gills, helping maintain fish health in ways that the fish cannot achieve themselves, making the relationship truly mutualistic, beneficial to both partners, demonstrating cooperation between species that increases both parties' fitness. For the reef ecosystem, cleaning stations provide important health maintenance, controlling parasite populations that would otherwise stress fish populations, removing diseased tissue that could spread infections, maintaining overall reef community health through the accumulated effects of countless individual cleaning interactions. Corals reproduce not just through the dramatic mass spawning events, but also vegetatively through fragmentation, where pieces broken off by storms or other physical disturbances can reattach and grow into new colonies, and through budding, where new polyps form on existing colonies. But the sexual reproduction, the release of gametes into the water, is heavily influenced by the moon's gravity, pulling on ocean water, creating tides that help disperse reproductive products, and by water temperature, which must reach specific threshold to trigger spawning. The moon's influence extends beyond just tidal effects. The light of the full moon may provide synchronization cue, allowing all colonies to coordinate their spawning, ensuring that gametes from different colonies meet and mix in the water, creating genetic diversity that's essential for evolutionary adaptation and population health. The water temperature threshold ensures that spawning occurs when conditions are suitable for larval survival, when water is warm enough for larval development, when seasonal conditions favor recruitment and settlement, demonstrating how environmental cues coordinate reproductive timing with environmental conditions, increasing offspring survival and reproductive success. A larval coral, called a planula, drifts in the plankton for days or weeks after fertilization, carried by currents that may transport it miles from its parent colony, allowing genetic mixing between distant populations, enabling colonization of new areas, spreading the species across its geographic range through these dispersing larvae. The planula must find suitable substrate, clean, hard surface where it can attach and metamorphose into first polyp of what may become a large colony, where conditions support growth and survival, where it won't be smothered by sediment or outcompeted by algae, making settlement a crucial bottleneck in coral reproduction, a stage where most larvae fail, where only tiny fractions successfully establish new colonies. The Red Sea contains some of the most heat-resistant corals in the world, thriving in water that reaches temperatures that would bleach and kill corals elsewhere, surviving summer conditions that exceed the thermal tolerance of most coral species, demonstrating that evolution has produced locally adapted populations with enhanced thermal tolerance, populations that might hold the key to saving other reefs as climate change warms ocean waters globally. Researchers are studying Red Sea corals intensively, trying to understand the genetic and physiological mechanisms that enable this heat tolerance, investigating whether heat tolerance genes could be introduced into other coral populations, whether Red Sea corals could be transplanted to degraded reefs elsewhere, whether natural selection might favor heat-tolerant genotypes as warming continues, creating hope that coral evolution might keep pace with climate change. The Red Sea's unique oceanography, isolation from other oceans, limited water exchange, extreme temperatures and salinities has created selection pressure that favored heat tolerance, that eliminated less tolerant genotypes, that resulted in populations that can survive conditions that would devastate other reefs, creating natural experiment in coral adaptation that might inform conservation strategies globally. But even Red Sea corals have limits. Continued warming may exceed even their enhanced tolerance. Acidification affects them despite heat tolerance. Local pressures from coastal development and pollution threaten these populations despite their thermal advantages, reminding us that no single adaptation provides complete protection, that coral survival requires addressing multiple stressors simultaneously. Artificial reefs made from sunken ships, decommissioned structures, or deliberately created reef structures can become thriving ecosystems in just a few years as coral larvae settle on the new substrate, as fish and invertebrates colonize the structure, as the reef community develops through ecological succession, transforming lifeless metal or concrete into vibrant living habitat surprisingly quickly. The artificial structures provide hard substrate for coral settlement, provide three-dimensional complexity that fish and invertebrates require, provide depth ranges that support diverse communities, creating the fundamental conditions that reef organisms need, allowing reef establishment even in areas where natural reef structures don't exist. The underwater statues off the coast of Mexico were designed intentionally to draw tourists away from fragile natural reefs while simultaneously providing new habitat for marine life, creating win-win situation where conservation and tourism coexist, where reducing pressure on natural reefs and creating new habitat both serve conservation goals, demonstrating how thoughtful intervention can address multiple challenges simultaneously. Not all artificial reefs succeed. Placement, design, water quality, larval supply all affect success, making artificial reefs uncertain rather than guaranteed solution to reef loss. Useful tools in some circumstances, but not panaceas, requiring careful planning and monitoring to ensure they serve intended conservation purposes rather than creating problems of their own. Coral mining, harvesting live coral for construction, for lime production, for decorative use, was once a major threat to reefs in many regions, removing coral faster than it could regrow, degrading reef structure, eliminating habitat, creating serious conservation concern that contributed to reef decline globally. Today, attitudes have shifted dramatically. Many coastal communities that once mined coral now grow coral gardens, nurseries where coral fragments are cultivated, allowed to grow to suitable size, then transplanted back onto damaged natural reefs, restoring habitat, rebuilding reef structure, creating hope for recovery of degraded reef systems. The coral gardening involves cutting fragments from healthy colonies, attaching them to structures or lines where they can grow, maintaining them through early vulnerable stages, monitoring growth and survival, then moving successful fragments to natural reef areas needing restoration. Labor-intensive process that requires dedication, but that's showing promising results in multiple locations. The transition from mining to restoration, from extractive to restorative relationship with reefs, demonstrates changing human attitudes, growing recognition of reef value and vulnerability, increasing willingness to invest effort in conservation rather than exploitation, creating hope that human reef relationships can be transformed from destructive to sustainable or even restorative. Seaweed and other algae are essential parts of reef ecosystems, providing food for herbivores, producing oxygen through photosynthesis, contributing to nutrient cycling, creating habitat with their structure. But too, much algae can smother coral, blocking light, interfering with coral feeding, preventing new coral settlement, creating positive feedback, where algae overgrowth leads to coral decline, which reduces herbivore habitat, which reduces grazing, which allows more algae overgrowth. This is why herbivorous fish are so vital to reef health. Parrotfish, surgeonfish, rabbitfish, and others graze constantly on algae, keeping it in check, preventing it from overgrowing coral, maintaining the balance between algae and coral that characterizes healthy reefs, providing critical ecosystem service that's threatened when herbivore populations decline from overfishing or other causes. Caribbean reef decline demonstrates this clearly. Overfishing removed many herbivorous fish, then disease killed the grazing sea urchins, removing most herbivores, allowing algae to overgrow coral, transforming coral-dominated reefs to algae-dominated systems, creating degraded ecosystems that support far less diversity and productivity, all through cascading effects initiated by herbivore removal. Restoring reefs requires not just replanting coral, but protecting herbivores, ensuring they can graze and control algae, maintaining the ecological relationships that support coral dominance, demonstrating that conservation requires ecosystem thinking, that protecting single species or single factors is insufficient, that successful conservation addresses the complex web of relationships that maintain ecosystem health and function. The clapping of a scallop's shell is rare but delightful sound on the reef, produced when the scallop swims away from slow-moving predators like sea stars, clapping its shells together to create jet propulsion, launching itself erratically through water in motion that combines swimming and jumping, that's both comical and effective at escaping predators that move slowly but that would eventually catch and consume the scallop if it remained motionless. The swimming is energetically expensive and can't be sustained long, but it doesn't need to be. Just moving away from immediate threat is sufficient, putting distance between scallop and predator, allowing scallop to settle in new location where predator must relocate it before attempting capture again, buying time and space that increases scallop's survival. The clapping sound is distinctive, unforgettable once heard, making scallop escapes entertaining encounters for divers who happen to witness them, adding acoustic diversity to reef soundscapes, reminding us that reefs are auditory environments as well as visual ones, that sound carries information, and that reef creatures use acoustic signals and cues in ways we're only beginning to understand. Ocean acidification, the increasing acidity of seawater caused by absorption of atmospheric carbon dioxide, makes it harder for corals to build their limestone skeletons because acidic water dissolves calcium carbonate and reduces availability of carbonate ions that corals need for skeleton formation, creating silent challenge that stresses corals, slows their growth, makes them more vulnerable to other stresses, threatens reef persistence even without the dramatic visible impacts of bleaching or disease. Scientists are working to understand acidification effects better, to predict how corals will respond as pH continues declining, to identify possible solutions from selecting acid-tolerant genotypes to engineering approaches that might locally reduce acidity, creating research program addressing one of the most challenging threats to future reef survival. The combination of warming and acidification creates particularly serious concern. Warming causes bleaching and increases disease. Acidification impairs growth and recovery, together creating conditions where coral may be unable to persist, where reefs may erode faster than they grow, where the structures that have persisted for millions of years may not survive the rapid changes occurring over decades, creating urgent need for action to reduce carbon emissions and other stresses. Citizen science programs allow recreational divers to contribute to reef monitoring and research, taking photos of specific survey areas, counting fish species during dives, reporting unusual observations, participating in data collection that would be impossible for professional scientists alone to accomplish, given the vast extent of reef systems and the limited research funding and personnel available. These programs democratize science, engage the public in conservation, create personal investment in reef health, provide valuable data that supports research and management, demonstrating that non-scientists can contribute meaningfully to scientific understanding, that expertise and contribution aren't limited to professionals, that reef conservation benefits from broad participation. The photos and counts that citizen scientists provide create data sets spanning years and locations that would otherwise not exist, revealing trends and patterns that would be invisible in limited professional surveys, making citizen science valuable complement to traditional research, expanding our ability to monitor and understand reef systems at scales that professional science alone cannot achieve. The vibe of a reef changes with the tide. At high tide, when water is deep and current is strong, the reef is full of energy, fish are active, plankton is abundant, the whole system feels vital and dynamic. At low tide, when water is shallow and still, the reef enters a state of quiet waiting. Activity decreases. Many fish retreat to deeper water. The exposed or barely submerged reef seems almost dormant, conserving energy until conditions improve. This tidal rhythm affects everything: feeding opportunities, predation risk, water chemistry, temperature, light levels, creating temporal variation in reef conditions that drives daily patterns in reef organism behavior, that creates additional natures through time variation, that demonstrates that reef ecology operates across multiple timescales, from the second by second of predation to the daily tides, to the seasonal spawning cycles, to the geological timescales of reef growth. Understanding these rhythms helps predict when and where to observe specific behaviors, when certain species are most active, when conditions are optimal for various reef activities, providing insight into reef ecology that's essential for effective research and conservation, that reveals the temporal complexity underlying the spatial complexity that's more immediately visible. Mangrove forests often act as nurseries for reef fish, providing tangled, protected habitat where juvenile fish can grow safe from the predators that patrol the open reef, where food is abundant, where the complex root systems create shelter that offshore waters can't provide, making mangroves crucial for recruitment of many reef species, for maintaining fish populations that depend on these nursery habitats. The connection between mangroves and reefs demonstrates that reef conservation can't focus only on coral. Healthy reefs depend on healthy mangroves, on seagrass beds, on the entire coastal ecosystem, on maintaining the connections and flows between habitats that support the complete life cycles of reef organisms, that enable recruitment and survival and population persistence. Protecting reefs requires protecting mangroves, protecting seagrass, protecting water quality, controlling coastal development, managing fisheries sustainably, addressing climate change, a suite of actions that recognize the connections between reef and surrounding systems, that acknowledge that reefs don't exist in isolation, but as parts of larger coastal ecosystems that must be conserved as integrated wholes. Every grain of sand, every swaying sea fan, every hidden moray eel plays a part in the perfect balance of this underwater city, each species contributing to ecosystems' function. Each interaction connecting organisms in food webs and mutualisms and competitions that together create the reef community, demonstrating that biodiversity isn't just a number, but represents the countless relationships and roles that make ecosystems function, that maintain productivity and stability, that create resilience, enabling persistence through disturbances. The reef is a reminder that life finds a way to build beauty and complexity, even in the middle of vast saltwater wilderness, that cooperation and competition together create structures and communities of extraordinary sophistication, that given time and appropriate conditions, evolution produces marvels, the living cities of coral reefs that have thrived for millions of years, that support more species than almost anywhere on Earth, that provide services worth billions to humanity, that inspire and humble and connect us to the ocean. As you drift into sleep, imagine the slow, eternal pulse of the tide washing over the reef, the gentle current bringing nutrients and removing waste, the patient rhythm that has continued for thousands of years, that will continue for thousands more if we protect these precious ecosystems. Imagine the silent growth of limestone, the polyps adding skeleton grain by grain, the imperceptible building that creates mountains over millennia. Imagine the peaceful dreams of sleeping parrotfish in their mucus cocoons, of turtles tucked under ledges, of octopuses hiding in crevices, of all the creatures of the reef resting through the night, gathering strength for another day of living, of feeding, of growing, of building the community that makes the reef so rich and vital and beautiful. The reef breathes with the tide, pulses with life, continues its ancient work in darkness and in light, in calm and in storm, through all the cycles and rhythms that govern ocean life. Let this peaceful rhythm guide you into rest. Let the gentle surge rock you like the reef creatures floating in the current. Let the quiet knowledge that these underwater cities persist, that they continue building and growing and supporting life, bring you comfort and calm as you drift into dreams. Good night, in the eternal rhythm of the reef, in the patient building of coral, in the midnight hunting of octopuses and the graceful gliding of eagle rays, in the sparkles of bioluminescence and the quiet grazing of urchins, in the restoration gardens growing hope, and the heat-resistant corals offering promise for the future. Sleep well, knowing that life persists, that beauty endures, that cooperation creates complexity, that the reef continues its work while you rest, building structures that will outlast us all, supporting communities of extraordinary richness, demonstrating that patience and partnership can create wonders that inspire and sustain and connect us to the living ocean that covers most of our beautiful blue planet. The tide rises and falls. The moon pulls on the water. The corals spawn in their annual miracle. The larvae drift and settle and begin to grow. The patient work continues. The reef builds and builds and builds, creating beauty and abundance and hope, offering us gifts of biodiversity and protection and inspiration, asking only that we protect these treasures, that we reduce the pressures we're imposing, that we give the reef time and space to continue the work it's done for millions of years. The quiet, patient, beautiful work of building life in the tropical seas.